I would like to just turn it over to Ken Brown from ADST, and he will give you the information.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Am I well heard in the back there? Okay, I'm Ken Brown, President of the Association for Diplomatic Studies and Training. We're a nonprofit organization. President of the Association for Diplomatic Studies and Training. We're a nonprofit organization that has a special partnership with the State Department and the FSI. We're sort of at but not of FSI. But in this partnership, we have two major goals. One is to support training here. We don't actually do training, but what we do primarily is act as a channel for FSI to the private sector. So if there are things in the FSI budget or things that FSI would like to do and they don't have money for in their budget, we can act on their behalf, go to the private sector, foundations, businesses, etc., acquire that money and help them out. For example, there's the annual Excellence in Language Teaching Award, and that is, half of that is funded privately. We get that money from the Cox Foundation, and then it goes for that language award. On occasions, the School of Language Studies might want to run a special program to find out how they can improve Arabic language training. We go out to the private sector, get them money to do that. The other major goal of ADST is to advance knowledge of American diplomacy. And we do that in various ways, primarily through our book program, our oral history program, through exhibits, and some educational websites. If any of you are thinking of going into teaching, or if you're going to be mentoring younger people about careers in foreign affairs, take a look at usdiplomacy.org. That's a special website which sort of gives a primer, an overview of U.S. diplomacy. The history of, relations between the State Department and other agencies, relations with the White House, Congress. There are examples of excellence on there. People who sort of stood out in the diplomatic career. There's a section called In Harm's Way, about colleagues of yours who have, maybe you yourself, who have been in difficult situations. So it's a very good teaching device. The other website was referred to already, and that is a special part of the website of the Library of Congress. And if you Google Frontline Diplomacy, that will take you to the Foreign Affairs Oral History Collection. And we've got already a colleague, Marjorie Thompson, who's our publishing director, about our publishing program. So if you have a book in you, we may be able to help you make sure that it sees the light of day. And there are various programs through which we can do that. So come and see us if you're thinking of that and you need some help having to do with foreign affairs, diplomacy, etc. Now, most of us, of course, don't publish that book, but we have a lot to offer. We have a lot of insights, experiences, and perhaps a lot of you have had experience that I had, come back from overseas, maybe a pretty interesting place, Algeria during the Algerian War, whatever, and a relative will say, well, how was it in Pakistan? And you start to tell them, and about 3 minutes later their eyes start to glaze over, and that's kind of the end of the explanation. But you've got those insights, you've got those experiences, and the Foreign Service story, the Foreign Affairs story, even beyond Foreign Service, needs to be told. And down the line, of course, those friends and family that maybe didn't listen in the beginning are going to want to know, or the kids are going to want to know, hey, what did Daddy or Mommy do during the war? We want to get that on the record, those insights and experiences on the record. And we do that primarily through this oral history program. And I think you met Stu Kennedy the other day. Stu Kennedy founded this program in 1986. In that program, we interview people who had experience in foreign affairs, usually foreign service, but not limited to foreign service, and not limited to the State Department. We start from day one. When were you born? And we bring you up through the career. Because we want to have not only what you did in diplomacy, but how you got there. So we've developed over time a social history of a good number of your colleagues and friends and others who preceded you. Social history, how they got into the Foreign Service, what their background was. You hear Johnny Young talking about growing up in a very poor area of Georgia, for example. Or people who came over during World War II, became immigrants, and then went on to become really quite distinguished in the Foreign Service. So we want you to think about participating in that program and telling your story. We do it usually 2-hour sessions. It can be 1 2-hour session. Usually it goes more like 5 to 10 sessions. scheduled at your convenience. Tom Pickering, his interview was 48 hours altogether. So it went on and on. The length of the interview really sort of depends on how long you want to talk, but we want to get that on the record. Once it's done, we have a transcript, we have it transcribed, then you have the opportunity to edit that transcript. You can do what you want with it. First of all, you want to make sure it's accurate. You want to make sure that the places you've been are spelled correctly, or the foreign minister you dealt with, his name is spelled correctly. You can also check to make sure that you didn't say something you maybe perhaps shouldn't have said. Maybe we're a little bit too far in describing an intelligence operation, which we like to avoid. We keep them unclassified. Maybe you want to take out the part where you refer to your boss as an SOB. Or maybe you say, hey, well, put it back in. I do want to call it an SOB. But in other words, the transcript is yours. You do with it what you want to. And then once that's edited and once that's cleared, we put that transcript on the website of the Library of Congress. So please think about doing it. Please come in and see us about it. And one of the things that we started doing is for people who particularly support the program, we can convert their oral history into book form. Now you get a hard copy anyway. You can take it to Kinko's and have it, printed up and do with it, what you want with it, and it becomes yours. Some interviewees use it as a foundation for a book. Joe Wilson did that. His book a lot of it was based on his oral history. But what we've done in particular that I'm referring to is a program where we can convert the oral histories into book form. We still keep it in Q&A format into book form. This is Harry Geisel, whom you may know, Acting Inspector General of the Foreign Service for some time. Very interesting. If you know Harry, you know it's kind of an interesting read. At one point they asked him, well, how did you get the goods into Mali in face of all this corruption with customs? He said, oh, we bribed them. So you have some fairly frank accounts. Anyway, think about that. We are always interested in having volunteers help us with particularly with our editing, our interviewing, etc. So think about that as well. We are a membership organization, and we'd like to encourage you to join. Now, members, there are certain concrete benefits in terms of you get discounts on our books, you get a discount price to our biennial awards dinner. We just had our big awards dinner 2 weeks ago, which we honored Tom Pickering, Robin Wright, and the Coca-Cola Company. Anyway, you get those kind of discounts. But the main benefit of supporting ADST really is intangible. You're contributing not only to supporting training here of our future generations of people in foreign affairs, but also to telling the Foreign Service story, getting on the record those insights and those experiences, which otherwise are going to be lost. So it's very, very important. So think about joining us. I have an offer you can't refuse today. Actually, you can refuse it if you want to, but you can become a member of ADST on a complimentary basis. At the end of that year, if you want to stay on, great. We would like that a lot, but you're not obliged to do so. So I'm going to leave up here brochures about ADST, and there will be a form in there that if you'd like to take advantage of that complimentary membership, just drop an envelope and send it to us, or you can leave with me here today. Are there any questions on what we do? We also collect diplomatic artifacts, by the way, let me just add. We have a couple of diplomatic uniforms. Back in the 1800s, early 1900s, there was actually a formal diplomatic uniform with the hard-cornered hat and that sort of thing. Anyway, diplomatic artifacts. We have Claire Booth Luce's the silver box she was given when she left Rome. Some other things like that. Anyway, a lot of these we will be giving to the new U.S. Diplomacy Center, which will be over at the department. You had questions?
I was just wondering about the format of the
I'm sorry, the format?
format. You ask questions.
You mean the format of the interviews? Yes, we just start out. It's a one-on-one. It can be done on the phone, by the way, if you're going to be moving to Texas or wherever. It can be done on the phone. We'd like to do them face-to-face if we can. It's just right from the beginning. When and where were you born? And then it just comes up from there. What were your schooling like? What intellectual influences did you have? Family background? What got you interested in the Foreign Service? What educational path did you take to get to the Foreign Service? What was your exam like? And then you, of course, get into, as I say, not necessarily foreign service, perhaps it's civil service, perhaps it's the agency, anyway. And then we start talking about your career. It's Q&A. And at the end of it, in that editing process, as I say, you can modify it. You can even put in questions and answers. You know, you forgot to talk about, you know, a particular post or assignment, or go into detail. You know. And you can put in a question, well, how was it in Aeroplan? You can say, well, funny, you should ask. And then you put your own question, your own answer. So it's really your transcript. Okay, join us. Thank you.
To encourage folks for ADST, they really do a great job in supporting the Institute for a lot of things that sometimes the government organization can't do. As an association, they've done some great things for the Institute, so it's really a great organization to be part of. Thanks again. Thanks.
Can you perhaps give us an update on the U.S. Diplomacy Center? I know it's not within your control, but I already donated
Yes,
an item to that.
You did.
A while back, and,
Question is about the U.S. Diplomacy Center and where it stands. We're strong supporters of that center. If you don't have enough brochures, by the way, I have more and I can answer that. We're strong supporters of the center. As you probably know, it was going to rely on a significant infusion of funds from the private sector to get it completed. I can't remember exactly what their goal is. I think it's at least $20 million. They've got some high-powered help in doing this. You have Elizabeth Bagley, who's leading the charge, Ambassador Bill Harrop, the Foreign Affairs Museum Council, and they will get it done. As you may know, it's going to be in the east wing of the main state building, and it's going to happen. It's going to take some time. So if you have donated something for that, either money or artifacts, don't worry, it'll get done. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Ken. I'm one of those former USIA
Yes,
employees,
yes.
and interested to know public diplomacy. How is that tied in with your organization as old USIA folks?
Well, you know, our current executive director is an old USIA hand. We have, by the way, a permanent staff, but we have also a executive director seconded to us from the department. We're currently a public diplomacy officer. And the USIA, those who come up through the ranks, we very, very much want your input into this, either in the book publication program or the oral histories. We give as much attention to that part of diplomacy as to the others. And your insights will be very useful to us if you sort of want to come over as a volunteer, a supporter, or just an advisor to help us get the word out more about what we do. Because we've got really a treasure trove of things which would be of benefit to people interested in foreign affairs, and we're not as well known as we'd like to be. We have gotten underway with Facebook page, etc., but we need to get better known. Okay. If anybody has any individual questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Just come on.